Hi everyone, Richard Robbins here. Well, the numbers are in for Calgary, so what I want to do is I want to share my monthly market update on what happened in January of 2019. However, I'm going to do something a little different this time, as I'm going to try to do something a little different every month, so hopefully I sort of widen your scope of learning when it comes to these numbers, which obviously helps you with buyers and sellers. So I'm going to compare January for the last 5 years. We're going to look at the sales, we're going to look at the listings, we're going to look at the months of inventory, and we're looking at the average price, and then I'll break it down into some micro markets. And then at the end, what I want to do is I want to give you some tips, some ideas on how to make 2019 a great year. So let's get started. If we look at the numbers, you can see these are your sales right here, these are your listings. 2015, we did 877, okay, then we went down by 13% to 765. Then we went up by 24% to 943, stayed pretty well the same at 959, and then of course January of 2019, you can see we're down to 804, so a little bit over 2016, but obviously substantially less than the last 2 years. Now, what about listings? Now, why is active listings important? Because active listings, if you divide sales into listings, it gives you months of inventory, which really tells you the strength or the weakness of a market in terms of which way prices are going to go. So if we look here, we had 4,792 listings, and then you can see our listing inventory went up, didn't it? Went up to a 4.8%. And then, of course, it went down a little bit. Obviously, market was stronger. And then it went up just a little bit here, by about 12%. But you can see here, it's up by 18%. So if we had 5,473 listings and we did 804 sales, divide that into that, what does it give us? 6.8 months of inventory. So if you go back the last 5 years in January, you can see you had 5.5 months of inventory. Now keep in mind, a balanced market is between 4 and 6 months of inventory. So balanced market moved into a bit of a buyer's market right here. Okay, balanced market, and where are we? We're back to roughly the same months of inventory as 2016. So you can see we're starting to repeat ourselves here in what's going on. Here's your days in the market. We were 41, 51, 53, 61, and they've increased to 72 in January of 2019. But let's have a look here at your prices for the last number of years. So 2015, we were sitting at 461. Then what happened? We went down roughly the same, 457, not even a point. And then we were up by 2.1%. We stayed roughly the same at 468. So if you look at 2015 to 2018, the prices have really gone nowhere, right? Then what happened? We went down by 3.6% in January. And we're back to what it was 2016. Do you see that? And our sales are back to roughly what it was. Our months of inventory is back to roughly what it was back then. So we can see the changes that are taking place. This is interesting here. This is your months of inventory in micro markets. So the board says we have 6.8 months of inventory. Detached has 5.8. So detached is a little stronger than the average market. Look at your condo market, getting killed. Prices are diving right here, okay? Attached, semi-detached, and row, almost the same. So you can see, you got 5.8 here. You're sitting in more of a balanced market when it comes to detached. Now, inexpensive detached has probably got less months of inventory. Expensive detached probably got a little more. So you might even see, potentially a slight price increase in, say, a great area with an inexpensive detached, right? So again, it depends on another micro market inside of that micro market. But look at this. Here's your average prices. Board, your average price is 451. Your detached is 521, very affordable, which is nice. Condo apartments, 276, detached 389, semis at 497, not far off a detached, which is interesting, and your rows sitting at 302. So what does this all mean? Well, here's what I suspect is going to happen in 2019. Nobody knows for sure, just my opinion. I think our market will probably start to slightly increase month over month in sales. In other words, February, I think, maybe it'd be a little bit better than 18. Who knows? But I just think that what's going to happen is you're going to have a decent market. You're not going to have a great market. Mind you haven't had a great market in a long time. You've had a balanced market for a long time. So we're probably going to see more of the same. However, in all fairness, right now we moved into a stronger buyer's market. So here's the question I get from everybody. They go, well, Rich, when you're in a buyer's market, should you focus on buyers or should you focus on sellers? And you always need to focus on sellers. But the challenge is this. People go, well, just a minute, if it's a stronger buyer's market, that means, the prices might be falling, or there might be a whole bunch of homes just like mine that are trying to get sold. It makes it really, really hard to sell. There's probably only 12 to 13% of the inventory selling on a monthly basis, right? If you do the math, I'm just guessing at that. So they say, well, I'm just going to work with a buyer because I don't have a lot of expense over here. Well, if I have a listing and it doesn't sell, I spent time and I spent money, and I'm not making any money off it. Well, that's not good as a business. So here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Number one, no matter what is going on in the market, and I've worked in some very difficult markets, always focus on listings. Every day wake up and look for listings, look for listings, look for listings. If buyers come along, that's great. Go ahead and work with them, but always be looking for listings. Number two, don't take all of the listings. Here's the difference. You're going to go on presentations. And what does it take to sell a house in a buyer's market, right? It takes the right price, and it's got to show well. Beauty contest, price war. You might have heard me say that before. Because think about this. If, let's say, and I'm just averaging out the numbers, let's say 1 out of 10 properties are going to sell on a monthly basis. That means that you want to become that one to sell, but 9 are not going to sell. How do you become the one? Price war, beauty contest, right? You got to stage, you got to declutter, you got to make sure it shows really well, and then you got to price it accordingly, because the buyers are going to go out and they're going to look at all of the homes in their area, in their price range. So now what you have to determine is the motivation of the seller, because think about this. If somebody is not highly motivated to sell, oh, let's put in the market, let's try it. Oh, if we can get this amount of money, maybe we'll buy a smaller house, that sort of thing. If there's a lack of motivation, that means they're probably going to price a little bit higher than it should be, and means they probably won't come down to the right price, and you got an expired listing. So remember, it takes really one of two things to sell a house. It takes the right price, or it takes high motivation, because if they're highly motivated, they'll eventually come to the right price. So what you want to do is be more selective in the listings you're going to take. So where are they moving? When do they want to move by? And why are they moving? Determine their motivation. And then the third is you got to stay in touch with these people a lot. And you want to help all of your sellers trip over the truth. Let me explain what that means. You need to be communicating with your sellers almost on a daily basis, or whenever a new listing comes up or a house sells, send them a copy of the listing, send them what the house sold for. Because if they have to sell, if somebody really has to sell, they're interested in what's going on. If they don't have to sell, they don't care. They'll say, we only need one buyer. But when they're really interested, they're looking, aren't they? So now when they start to see these other listings coming out comparable to theirs at, say, maybe a better price, or when they start to see what they're selling for, they trip over the truth. And they realize they need to reduce the price if they're already too high. But you got to stay in that game, because here's the deal. If you take homes that are overpriced with lack of motivation, you got an expired listing, you spend time, you spend money, you don't get paid. Bad business decision. So go on as many listing presentations you can, become more selective in the ones you take. When you take them, you communicate with them more often, help them trip over the truth, get that house showing well, get it priced right, and you'll be that 1 out of 10 or whatever the number is that's going to sell that month. So always focus on the listing side of the business. Remember, you got to list to last, you got to list to live. And they say old agents don't die, they just become listless. I know, bad joke. Anyway, everybody, it's a beautiful life. I hope this was helpful. Make it count.